What are we supposed to do for 2 weeks?
Die. What are you thinking?
Read all of the Sfarim
That's right.
that Sutton has written. That'll keep you busy.
What is this about? He's going away.
January 14th.
You didn't ask permission.
People have withdrawal. People have withdrawal.
Tov lehodot Lashem. Tov lehodot Lashem. ולזמר לשמך העליון, טוב להודות לשם, ולזמר לשמך העליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. Na 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 ah na 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 Just to mention one thing before we start, the Ari writes, he's writing about Perek Shira. Everybody know what Perek Shira is? Psukim, verses that are said by every creature, every animal, every creature, Shemaim, Aretz, rivers, springs, everything has a song. The verse itself is what people usually say. They don't get into the song. Behind this is that every creature has its own song, its own vibration. He says that everything has an angelic part above, and that angelic counterpart sings its song, which means it connects to the vibrational frequency at which it was created. Right, whatever that is. And then it's able to channel down the life force that it receives to its counter down below. It's a very interesting idea. So now the Hebrew Aleph Bet is we hold more than any other Aleph Bet is expressive of every possible. It's called the Chamisha Motzaot HaPeh, the five categories of speech. So within the first category is of Aleph, of Hey, of what? Het, and of Ain. It's called ah. Those are they're coming down here. The next set is up here at the actual 90-degree angle here called, it's when we do a g. If you go inside as you're doing g, something your tongue is connecting and touching lightly the top of your call it larynx, I'm not sure. G. Babies like to do this, right? And then there's yeah, and all of them in the same area. K. You see your tongue sing up against, right, the top of your larynx. There's some that are in the mouth, in the cavity of the mouth, and then there's some where the tongue gets more involved and gets and puts itself up against the roof of the mouth, or gets close to the teeth, or touches the teeth. Right? Amazing.
Good.
So we're very civilized. We're very civilized. We say words, and if we do some of the letters, we do in a very similar. But if you get into the actual, and you're in a room alone, and you make these sounds, of course, don't let anybody hear you, but you let it out. And something even my son taught me on Shabbat is he sings, but he does warm-up now for at least 30 minutes before he sings. Otherwise, he's losing his voice all the time. And warm-ups include any kind of sound you could make to get those muscles and everything, and it helps. And then when you sing, it comes from the stomach, it comes from deep down. So you have to be uninhibited. But what you want to get to is your sound. And your sound is basically any sound you make. But there's a foundational sound that's behind all of those. And there's a foundational breath that's behind all of those. So that when you transfer, so that when you put that into your davening, and you're davening with your sound, and you're saying the words with your sound, it's a whole personal level of prayer that most people don't get because they're already talking, they're hearing themselves from the outside. It's very helpful to cover your ears when you're davening, so you can hear yourself from the inside. And then breathing is also from the inside. To be in my breathing, to know that my breathing is my life. So there's a very basic thing called my song. It might not sound like a song on the radio, right? It might not be a tune. It's my song. I love it when cats purr. They curl up, and there's an engine going there. It's beautiful. You have that too. And when you do that, you connect to the frequency, the vibration that is your frequency. It's a very powerful idea for me. That's the best I can do right with it. But when you sing, with having connected to that sound, to that breath level, it's a different thing. You're not singing from the outside. You're singing from the inside. So your singing is a sound breath exercise. And it's to sing consciously and to put all of that behind the words or the tune that you sing. I invite you all to, because the time is to do this is now, and is to get really connected inside, so that when we do things and we manifest on the outside, we're manifesting from a deeper place inside of us. You can hear me on that, right? Mm-hmm. It's an idea. Right now, I'm workshop on it right now. I'm just giving you an idea. I want a deeper sound and vibratory level of my own being, and according to Tov and the Ari and others, that's what it's about. Oh, right. But the davening that we're doing is, even when we're singing, it can be deeper if we connect to that inner point and we sing from that place. It's just an idea, and I just want to share.
Can I just ask you a question on this?
Yes.
So when a person is ill and they sort of like moan or groan, like, you know, when people are
Groaning.
That's like trying to connect something too, right?
Garon. It's from the Hebrew garon. The garon is the throat. And when you groan, what are you doing? You're using your throat. So
you're
amazing.
Trying to like connect something, I think, when you're, groaning from like illness or whatever.
Yeah, so you can groan not from illness, but as an exercise of connecting to that level. Whatever. It's all experimental, and we should be able to devote time to this, a little bit of time, to discover those parts of ourselves that are there.
It's interesting to think about what's happening to coughing and sneezing on this level. Think about that.
Coughing and sneezing, right? Okay, that was like not part of this class, but it was okay. Because everybody wants to feel alive. Teenagers want to feel alive. 7-year-old kids want to feel alive. Horses want to feel alive. Rabbi Nachman's story, of course, I'm going off on another, but this is going to be really short. Rabbi Nachman's story of the exchange children. Rabbi Nachman's story of the exchange children. Who has not read that?
Guilty.
So you know you're missing. It's really, these are masterpieces. Rabbi Nachman's stories are masterpieces of fantasy, fairy tale, and myth, with totally based in the deepest Torah. Like, wow, amazing. So, the story of the exchanged children, the son of the king is switched with the son of the maidservant, and they grow up, and they go to the same school, and then the woman who switched them tells somebody, and then the rumor starts going around, and it actually gets to the son of the king, and it gets to the son of the maidservant, who is now the prince, and it gets to the son of the king, who is now a servant. And so the false king, well, he becomes king, and he's the false king, and it's purposely confusing the way that Rabbi Nachman tells it. It's profound because it's the story of Yaakov, soul, body, a whole bunch of stuff. The false king decides to start making life hard for his father and for the real king, for his own father. And the real king is like getting the brunt of this, and he's like, this is like not fair. If I'm the real king, I don't deserve this, and if I'm not the real king, I don't deserve this either. And nobody knows the truth. It's all rumor. Eventually, he goes into cell and to drink.
But the king does.
The real king goes
The real
into
king.
exile. He goes to drinking and to brothels. It's part of the story. At one point, after living that kind of a life for a while, he has a dream 3 nights in a row. Go to Leipzig and take the first job offered to you. We'll see that there's a little Yosef in here also. We're going to deal with Yosef tonight. So he goes to Leipzig and he takes a job with a cowherder. The cowherder rides a horse and has a whip, and he takes a job cowherding with a little stick. And he's very, very intimidated by the cowherder, and to the extent that when 2 of the cows run off into the forest, he runs after them because he's afraid he'll get whipped. He's beside himself. And as they run into the forest, he runs after them. And as he runs after them, they run more into the forest until night comes and he goes up into a tree. And it's like weird with weird sounds and everything. And in the morning, they're there at the bottom of the tree. And as he gets down, they run further, and he runs further into the forest. And he's like totally lost now. And after days of this, he meets the forest man, who is not a man, is not a human being. And what the forest is and what the man is and all this is like, it's all fascinating. But he lives in a house suspended in the forest, and he helps the son of the king to get back to who he is. It's like basically going into the unconscious to retrieve your true self. And but one of the things that he does in order to help the son of the king do this, the king actually, is he gives him an instrument. He says, you put this in any tree, any animal or anything, and you'll hear its song. So Rabbi Nachman, the commentators say that the first part of this story, the part of going and chasing after the animals, corresponds to the first part of Shachrit, which is the korbanot, the chasing after the lusts. The second part is the psuka de zimra, the instrument that you can put on any animal, anything, and hear its song, corresponds to the second stage of our davening every morning called psuka de zimra, verses of song. And it's great because even in the story, and the story is only words, it's so real. You feel the song of every creature and the discovery that this brings to the king, that everything is alive and it has its song. I'll stop here. Read the song on your own. It's just great. We come now to Yosef. Okay, that's where we're holding, right? With Yosef. Last week we started in Rabbi Nachman, We started with the actual psukim themselves in Parashat Vayeshev, which is next week. Next week. That's why I had to start beforehand, because it just goes real quick. We saw the first verse of Vayeshev. Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz Migurei Aviv. Yaakov dwelt in the land of the sojourner, Be'eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan. Ele Toldot Yaakov, Yosef ben 17 Shana. These are the generations, or the chronicles, or the events, or the important milestones in the life of Yaakov. With Yosef was 17 years old, and he was shepherding his brothers with the sheep. He was shepherding the sheep with his brothers, that whole double meaning. And he was acting like a youth with the sons of Zilpah and the sons of Bilhah. And he brought Diba Ra'ah, he brought bad report about his brothers, meaning to say the sons of Leah. And we talked about that, and how that, does anybody need a little bit review on what the difference is between how the sons of Leah perceive the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah? Is anybody confused about this? No. Great.
Wouldn't do any harm, just said.
Well, they look down on them, correct?
The sons of Leah consider themselves the real sons of Yaakov. The real wife of Yaakov is Leah. And because they want to stand up for their mom. But the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, actually, Leah gave Zilpah to Yaakov, and she had 2 sons consecutively, after Leah having had 4. Then Rachel, seeing this, gave her maidservant Bilhah to Yaakov, and she had 2 sons.
Why did Leah do that?
How can they do this?
Why did Leah do it? Because Rachel did it because she wasn't.
Rachel did it because she wasn't having any children. Why did Leah do it?
Yeah.
She knew she had to have a certain
All
amount.
these years.
She didn't want to have any more kids at that time, and then she understood that she was going to be able to do that. I don't know. Good question. Good question. In the end, she had some more. The point is, at that time, she had 4, and now she gave to the Zilpah. So, okay. There's so many things we're skipping over here, but what I'm trying to get to is that Yosef sees the sons of Leah are looking down on the sons of Zilpah and Bilhah. And he there befriends the sons of Zilpah and the sons of Bilhah. And we saw that the Rashi, the first one says that he's acting like a nar. He's fixing his hair all the time and his eyes, which doesn't say very much. It's not very positive. But the Rashi immediately after it said that he's trying to mekarab, he's trying to bring them close. Lekarvan, to bring them close, which goes back to Avraham. When he was he brought close. When it says that Avraham made souls in Haran with Sarah, it means he kirvan tachat kanfei Shechina. He brought them close under the wings of the Shechina. The Rashi says, based on the Midrash. So the word kirvan, to bring somebody close, becomes the key of why he acted like a nar, like a foolish young boy, was only in order to get close to them, in order to connect with them, to bond with them, and to lift them up. That's how Rabbi Nachman is seeing it. It's once you see it from Rabbi Nachman's point of view, you can see it's in the Rashi itself. So in the text that we were learning, you all gave them back to me last week, so I have them here. Okay, so I'm passing that again. Whoever has from last week can use it. If you don't,
Is it
Okay.
what you sent in the email?
I also sent it today.
Okay.
Thing. So Rabbi Nachman's insight here is very personal, because in a sense he really got into this drama of the brothers. And we could do bibliodrama. We could do it, really could do it. I mean, I'm going to bring a piece to you soon of, if we get to it, I'm going to make it that we don't do everything inside here, because it'll take up all the time. It's definitely, it's not the hardest text in the world, but because it's Hebrew, it's very challenging. It takes more time. It's an inside thing. You got to focus in there and be with it on the inside, and that's not not easy. But it has its rewards. You get much more out of doing something inside of this nature than you get from cursorily reading a English text. I hope that's clear to everybody. Okay, so we're on the first page. It's all Hebrew. Excuse me. And Rabbi Nachman says in the second paragraph from the bottom, V'hu nar, v'zehu nar et b'nei Bilha et b'nei Zilpah. We'll just see it inside. And he was acting like a youth with the children of Bilhah and the children of Zilpah. Shehem b'nei Ashfachot, they are the children of the maidservants.
So where are you?
On your pages, it's the second paragraph from the bottom in Hebrew. Zehu, it starts with Zehu. I sent it out to everybody on this list, including people who have written to me on Facebook. And if you are on Facebook and you haven't gotten this mailing, so you can tell me, send me an email and I'll put you on. Because it's again something that I was never able to do in years past, is to communicate with people on a larger scale. It's very novel for me, and it means a lot to me to be in contact with people who really want. Okay, they're the children of the maidservants. And bechinat mishpachot hayerudot sheb'Yisrael, they are the category of the lowly families of Israel. Shahayam morid et atzmo elehem, he would lower himself to them, biyoter kedei lakarvam, in order to draw them close. And that's why people who are far away are symbolically far away from. He's going to define very much what it means to be far away. It's an important thing that's what we're coming here for. What is far away and what is close? What is in? That's what's behind this whole discussion here. I'll get to it in a second. People who are far away are called the children of Bilhah and the children of Zilpah. And he now defines the words as words. This is a hint. These two names, Zilpah and Bilhah, they hint or allude to the fact that these people are clutched in the hands of the Baal Davar v'chelotav and his armies. The Baal Davar literally means the master of word. The Nachash it's a code word for Nachash, for that negative voice side of all of us, and his armies, whatever. Okay. This is firstly hinted at in the name Bilhah. Bechinat dalahot etenech ve'enech. It's a verse in Ezekiel 26:21. In your version, it's mistaken, and I corrected it in mine now, and I corrected it in the email that I sent out. Balahot etnech ve'enech. I will give you a life of confusion and basically psychic tumult. Uperesh Rashi Sham Shedim. A person will feel like they're being attacked by spirits. Hanu Chelot HaYetzer Hara, the army inner enemy, the thing that's there, which is a death wish, which is a thing that's built into all of us, some more, some less. Some of us suffer with it more, some of us suffer with it less. Something that wants to kill us. The death wish, Freud called it. The Yetzer Hara, we call it. The urge to do something which is detrimental to myself, for which I will then hate myself. And then when I hate myself and dislike myself, I do that very thing that I dislike about myself. And the more I do that, the more I hate myself. And the more I hate myself, the more I do that. That's the cycle of guilty conscience that he's talking about. That's bilahot, is the confusion that leads to doing things that are detrimental to self.
And you're saying that whole process is a process of dying.
It's a force that was implanted within us, that you might ask, why did God give me such a negative force that wants to work and torpedo and subvert me and always screw me up and make me do things that are actually opposite to what I want? No, I asked myself these questions. And I came up with some very important answers. So that's what I'm bringing out here. But do anybody identify at all with what I'm saying? Why are we built like this? What is going on here? It's unfair. What kind of a God are you? But the answer turns it on its head. I'm giving you raw material, which in its raw state is a death wish. But when you transform it, you become a master. And the only way for you to do it is like the caterpillar who has to fight his way out of his own cocoon. And if you cut away the cocoon to help the caterpillar will die without ever being able to use its wings. Yes, Talia.
Is this an explanation of the children of Bilhah and Zilpah being Me'achoraim? Is he spelling it out?
Well, Achoraim is an additional thing here. Achoraim, there's Panim and Achoraim. Leah and Rachel are the front side, and each one of them has a backside. Each one of us has a backside. Backside in the Kabbalah is a symbolic system we talk about in Kabbalah, that everything has a backside. It's such an interesting thing. I mean, and you're right on to ask, but it'll take me too far away at the moment. But definitely write it down as an important question. We have dealt with it in the past. I always pay attention to people, the way they park their cars. They're completely unaware of their back end. Back end is the unconscious, is the subconscious, is the stuff that I'm not aware of. I think that I'm such and such, and I'm a good person, and I'm upright, and I'm transparent, and I do everything on the top of the table. But in the back of my mind, I have all kinds of stuff that I'm doing that I'm not telling anybody, including myself. That's called the back end. Yes.
You just said how we become its master, but I missed that half a sentence.
How we become a master of self, how we could become Avrahams and Sarahs and Yosefs and Moshes, is that he gives us this negative thing that I write about in a number of places from the Ari himself and others, how what's going on here of why we are made in such a way that at first it seems totally unfair. But once we start doing the transformative work, but the problem is nobody's teaching us the transformative work. So therefore the whole thing seems unfair. But when there is such a concept being introduced now that I've been given this in order to become more powerful as me than I could ever have been without it, then I say, oh my goodness, I mean, there's something to do here. Give me some advice, give me some training, give me some guidance here. Because this is me. I want to be me. And I want this thing that's bringing me down to be part of me now in my growth, to unfold into goodness. Okay.
Part of actualization is accessing that subconscious part of yourself.
For sure, yeah. It's given to us. It's given to us in order to ultimately, and it's a huge thing. Yeah, that's all I'll say right now. But take it, write it down, give yourself a second, that the negative part of me was given to me as raw material for me to develop into something beautiful, to change the beast into a prince.
So I think one of the very important things you're saying here is that you see these things in oneself, whatever. Don't just try and cut yourself off from it and exist and you're not going to be. No.
Right.
Transform it.
It doesn't
around.
work to cut myself off from it.
Oh.
That's part of
Sure
its
doesn't.
technique.
Right.
To fool you further. So
That's
you're saying
what.
rather transform, make it part of you, and
Yeah. Incorporation, elevation.
yeah.
Are all the subconscious parts necessarily negative? You can have.
How can I generalize? Are all the subconscious parts negative? Basically, everything inside of me, which is good, is wrapped around it. It's in a klipa form. I have to identify the good within myself and elevate it, and the klipa becomes either falls off or becomes transformed. I mean, there's a whole psychology here. I'm not ready to articulate all of it, but I hope that what I am being, and in the next few minutes, maybe even better. Excellent question. Is everything in the subconscious what?
Negative.
Negative? No, God forbid. It's a mixture.
It can be very powerful. I imagine it can be very powerful.
I don't know what's good. I don't know what's bad. Sometimes I think that something is good. Maybe it's really actually not so good. Maybe on the it's belahot v'zalafot. That's what he's in right now. That's what he's trying to define. Within the story of Yosef and of the family of Yaakov, as part of the heredity of Am Yisrael, there's going to be some powerful dysfunctionality that's part and parcel, which when we work with it, we become great. And we also can lift up all of humanity. Why did we, I mean, just it's very rich stuff.
Can I just give one example, which I think,
Yeah, okay.
not a personal example. I take this totally from David Zeller, who described in one of his books somewhere, he said the ego is, when it's used properly, is the ambassador for the soul. In other words, it's the means by which the soul can express itself. But when the ego takes over, and this is the Yetzirah and so on, it becomes the opposite. You're confusing the master for the servants, and it becomes it's not anything but the ambassador for the soul. In fact, it's doing the very opposite. It's
beautiful.
Just turn it around and make it do what it's supposed to do, and then it's all integrated. Everybody's happy. The ego's happy. I'm happy. God's happy.
Okay, so yeah, there's a theory of personality here. So David Zeller said that the ego is the ambassador of the soul. It represents the soul, but when it takes over and impersonates the soul, and then we have a disaster.
And
So
so
we
we
have
do
the
that
soul.
all the time.
So, well, okay, we can, once we get the idea, then we can start to work with it. And there's good things here that the neshama needs the ego. We need a good, strong sense of self. Okay, let me go back inside for the moment. So he brought this verse and he brought the Rashi that Rashi mentions Shedim. Shem Shedim u'klipot, they are spirits and shells. Shem mibahalim u'marshi'im etam, three synonyms. They confuse, and they bring a person down. Two words for confusion, one for entrenching a person in a false personality where they don't know how to get out of it. Marshia, to laharshia, is from the word rasha. The word rasha is, maybe you've heard me say it in the past, is the word ra, resh ein, with a shin in the middle. The shin is the ish, is the person trapped in ra, trapped in negative actions and negative thoughts. Our job is to extricate the person from the identification with the ra. That's not you, that's not me, that's something I got caught into. I became entrenched in it and enwrapped in it. And even the word wicked in English is a wick that's twisted, right? A wicked person is somebody who's twisted in his own negativity and can't distinguish himself or herself from that negativity. And that's a fantastic recipe, right, for doing all these things that are subversive to myself. But if I can start distinguishing, right, and clarifying who I am and the I, that's what we haven't mentioned yet in the text, is what's called the job of the Yosef, who becomes, with his many-colored coat, which is ability to to connect with every single human being at their level, the ability to connect with every single one of us at our frequency, and to arouse that good in us, and to speak to that good in us, and to empower that good in us through what's called Hasagat Elokut. So it's a kind of a strange phraseology that's used throughout this entire portion of Torah here in the Likutei Halachot. What is Hasagat Elokut? Officially, it translates what? As the ability to grasp or experience godliness, divinity. Right? Let's work with that for a second. So what Yosef is going to help the Bnei Zilpah and the Bnei Bilhah do, and us, our own Yosef, he's going to allow us to feel that we are worthy of God's love. That's the healing. Because Bilhah and Zilpah, the symbolic children of Bilhah and the symbolic children of Zilpah, when you get down to it, is I'm unworthy. That's that core belief that has to be challenged. Where did that come from? Where did I first experience that? Can I go back there and re-experience that sin? Can I fight for myself now and say, I am worthy. I want to be worthy. Nobody can take away my connection with my essence with God. We didn't have the ability to fight for ourselves when we were young, and so therefore we went into a deep state of denial of self. And we put up all kinds of stuff that I'm good, I can make the best jokes in the world, I'm smarter than anybody else. Also, I can make people feel sorry for me better than anybody else. Right? Every character that people take on, all the different disguises that we all wear, behind all that is this little boy and little girl who doesn't believe in himself. So Yosef zooms right into that.
But deeper than that, little boy and little girl who really does believe in himself.
Beautiful. Yeah, so deeper than that, to get to that deeper strata where I really do have a sense of. Okay, so, but it's covered over. It's co-opted by a force that surrounds me and called klipa, that draws energy from me and uses it against me. Again, it's not fair. Okay. Well, we don't need much more of this. He does the same thing with Zilpah. Bechinat b'nei Zilpah, bechinat zalafa ahazatni mirashaim ozve toratecha. Psalm 109:53. Zalafa, here it's added with the ayin, not just Zilpah, but Zalafa. So I've been attacked or seized. Ahazatni is I've been seized by Zalafa, by terror. I'm terrified. Inside me, I'm easily triggered. Because inside me, I'm vulnerable, hurt easily, and I react with anger, I react with screaming, I react with whatever, right? All that outside stuff, but inside, I'm terrified. I'm hurt, I'm wounded. So that's Zilpah, Bilhah, more or less, because it's all poetic license. Because these are the armies of the Yetzer Hara, he calls and all who are drawn after them, means drawn to their net of negativity, are called symbolically the children of Bilhah, the children of Zilpah. But Tzaddik HaGadol, Bechinat Yosef, the great Tzaddik, Bechinat Yosef. We're now leaving Yosef as just he's more than just Yosef himself. He embodied this, but anybody who wants this job, who has been the negative, and who has somehow come out of it, or is in the process of coming out of it, and who knows what it feels like, they can be a Yosef to others, and for themselves. Right? We're talking about becoming great from a seemingly unfair situation where everything is stacked against me, and I now somehow see, right? And so what we're talking about, and I wrote in the letter today, we see throughout these classes is that we want to connect to a higher level of our own soul evolution. And in order to do that, we have to go through an initiatory period of our lives where we don't know who we are. Why do I call it initiatory? Initiatory is great. But initiatory sometimes feels like you're dying and you don't know who you are and you're being attacked. So I'm dramatizing it maybe yes, no, I'm not doing the right thing, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that for us to get to that next level of our life, which is what I really feel these classes are about, is our personal GEULAH. And it's not a one-time thing, it's going to be another GEULAH, and we're going to see it all as one great process of GEULAH, every one of us, and collectively. So that's the vision behind all these details that I want to talk about, but that each one of us should be strengthened to believe that it's possible. And I have this quote, this beautiful quote from a book from the Chalban that you don't have in front of you. A person should not hold back from very powerful and exalted desires for mastery and for closeness to God, because out of a fear that maybe they will fall into vanity and false pride. He says the dangers of the dangers of feeling that you are a beloved of God and that you have a right to get higher and to get closer, and that what you do is important, that when you say something and do something, it means something in your life, in other people's lives, in the life of the world, that's much less of a danger than falling into, oh, what I do doesn't mean anything, and what could ever I could do, and oh, therefore, why should I even daven? Or when I do daven, I don't even really believe that davening really does anything. That downward thing is much more dangerous than I may be special in God's eyes, right? Because that can be worked with. We can say, yeah, it's a little bit egotistical. You should know everybody's special in God's eyes. You modify it with reality, a reality check, and then you're building on the positive. Yes, you are special, but the negative of you're not special, you're nothing, you're no good, all that stuff, right? We want to get away from that. So he has a nice thing about that here. Was that more or less clear? Okay. You want to repeat it? The sentence. So the the person should not hold himself back from striving and yearning for high levels, because of some kind of suspicion or some kind of chashash, concern that he might fall into being overly egotistic. And he brings it in the name of the Chalban, who gives Eitzot tovot ketzad liinatzil min hagava yichola lavo yedei hasheifot. He gives eitzot, he gives advice as how to overcome the possible ego trip that a person could go on if they have high expectations. Sheim yamod al tiva ratzon shel. Okay, that's maybe enough for what we need. I just felt it was important to point these little things out along the way. Yeah, Talia.
When it says that the tzaddik or Yosef mekarban, can it also be that through his tzaddikut or kedusha, he pulls them out of where they are? They get pulled up from where they are. Different levels.
The karvan, to bring somebody close to God, means to bring somebody close to their own self their own self-worth,
No, I understand.
and
but-
to bring them up to
but-
elevate them? Is that what you?
But what I'm trying to actually ask is, it's not a question of the career is to intellectually or to tell somebody what to do or to in that respect. I think it's something that's more spiritual. They end up pulling them out.
Oh, I mean, I can tell you that I had a relationship with a Rabbi Darzi, Reb Shmuel Darzi, alav shalom. His yortzeit is in the 23rd of Kislev. Wow, I mean, he was born in Baghdad. He came here in 48. He had an orphanage, and then he devoted his life totally to Kabbalah. He was the Chavrut of Kaduri, and then they split apart, and that's when I met him. I mean, he didn't. He what did he do? He completely helped me come out of a whole negativity that I had suffered with for years. I wasn't an easy character to deal with. That's my wife. But wow, I just really felt such blessing from this man. He lifted me up.
But I mean, even if it's a teacher, there's a level of teaching, but then there's also that level that's more internal, more community, that's pulling someone out because
What did you just distinguish? There's a teacher,
There's a
and there's a
teaching.
panimi level, an inside level of putting.
yeah, because
what do you mean?
teachers who teach with the neshama, not because I don't know. It's an internal teaching that it's both external and internal. Internal in the sense they have a desire to transfer a certain strength that they see that they're connected to, and by doing that, they end up pulling the person, forward, up, whichever way you want.
I believe
I've
that.
experienced that kind of teaching.
Let's take an example of a master, a violinist. So how is he going to teach violin? Is he going to teach the technicalities of violin to his student, his prize student? Or is he going to play a piece with his whole being that's going to change and transform his student into, oh my God, it's nothing. It's totally different from what I thought it was. It has to come from within me, but he's giving me the ability by virtue of him doing what he just did. He's awakening in me now the ability to do that in myself. I'm not going to be him, but he's given me something.
So
If that's what you're saying.
That can be a tool.
That's called kirva. That's called kirvam. That's called bringing somebody close to their own connection to God.
You might, in the process, also throw in some technique. You'd say, if you use this technique, it's going to help you do what you want to do.
Okay,
I mean, he needs Chachma and Bina.
great. Okay, now we're jumping. There's more here, but maybe we'll come back to it. I think that's maybe the best. I have 10 pages of Shlomo Shlomo Carlebach describing the sale of Yosef by his brothers. I didn't bring. I brought 10.
10 pages?
I sent them out today,
Yeah, I
and
printed that one.
you printed it. If you printed it, if not, I have to use
But it's
one.
only 3 pages.
It's a 1 page.
Oh,
the
one
thing
page.
itself-
Oh, 1 page. Yeah.
So, Shlomo from the Holy Beggars Gazette from 1960.
Sure.
Share 3 on a page.
Take one. Between you.
And if you don't have one in front of you, so
Can I just ask a question?
question, yes.
So you talk, it's
Amazing.
Bilhah and Zilpah, but then Yosef's going down into Egypt and then having to be in prison and all that. Is there a correspondence to that, to the whole Bilhah and Zilpah piece? Do you know what you understand what? Sorry if it's too off the topic.
No, it's I can't answer it easily. Yosef has to go through his own inner. Besides what he wanted to do with the family, which in a sense backfired, you could say, or everything unfolded as it was supposed to. It depends on which perspective you want to look at it from. But he himself, he's going to see now in Shlomo, and then afterwards in the Sefer Yashar, we're going to deal with this for the rest of this class. We still have a little bit of time. Please bear with me. to deal with Yosef himself now, not Yosef vis-a-vis others.
I think it actually ties into what you're saying, because actually he was only able to accomplish his goal by actually working out his
But-
peace, and then he was able to lift everything
By
up.
Yosef down into Egypt, is Yosef now becoming even more capable of Zillahs and the Zilhas. He has to go into his own hell.
Right.
Okay, now
So what
Shlomo.
comes out of this is the lower you go, the more disconnected and dead the person is. When they come out of it, the higher and the more alive, the more awake, and the more real, the more everything they are. One corresponding to the other.
The deeper
The
you
greater
go,
the
the
hell,
deeper
the
you
greater the
go,
hell.
the deeper you go,
That's a law of physics.
the
when
more
it
you
has
can
an
raise
equal and
up the
opposite,
deepest
equal and opposite
sparks
thing.
that are buried and go and become more complete. Let's just say that for the moment. Reb Shlomo, these are the two kings. There are two kings in the world. Yosef is the king of all the tzaddikim, the king of all the people who never did wrong in their life. Now, of course, there's always going to be difficulties here. You can always say he did do something wrong. He didn't do it perfectly. He made a disaster in a sense. But we're not going there. We're just going to symbolically, generally speaking, he represents the tzaddik. Tzaddik. Not everybody gets that name, right? Not everybody gets that name in the Tanakh. What character in the Tanakh was and Yosef? I think Mordechai is at one point. But anyway, three of them. So it's quite a name to carry. Tzaddik, Yosef Tzaddik. So that must be for a reason. There's something about Yosef, and so Shlomo is going to go into that a little bit here. Hashem, with Hashem's help, will be important here. He is the king of all tzaddikim, the king of all the people who never did wrong in their life. Yehuda is the king of all the people who went wrong. Everything they ever did in their life was wrong, and yet they have the strength to fix it. I mean, Shlomo is it's not the best English. I just kept it as it was. Basically, it's the sense inside of me that I've never done anything right. And obviously, if you articulate it and you hear yourself say it, that's not true. You know you've done things right. But it's an inner voice. It's an inner sense. And what happens sometimes is maybe both of them get distorted. Both of them, the tzaddik becomes too tzaddik. I am too much of a tzaddik in my eyes. And the one who's done wrong becomes too much of a wrongdoer. I need to balance them and have them work together. And that's what Shlomo's going to get to here, I think. Yosef strength not to do wrong, to keep yourself going. Yehuda gives you the strength to fix. We need both. What happens now when the brothers decide, and basically it was Yehuda's decision, they decide to sell Yosef as a slave. A totally different treatment, and you'll have to accept this, that there are different ways of looking at the same story. And it's not like go to one rabbi and get one answer, and go to another rabbi and get another answer, and go to another rabbi and get another answer. Well, why do I even have to go to any rabbis at all? I'll give my own answer. No, it's not like that. There's a holistic Torah here with many different facets. And your job is to work with as many as you can. Aryeh Kaplan is a fantastic example. Aryeh Kaplan, just one example. What are the stones, the 12 stones in the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol? He brings every possible opinion. Instead of saying, I think this opinion is better, I'll put all the others under the carpet. Because why should I confuse people? I'll just tell them this is the real opinion. No. I want to give information that you can build on and come to your own conclusion, which is holistic with nothing left out. That's who Aryeh Kaplan was. That's why all of his books are filled with sources. So you can check it out and go to yourself and see that there's a lot of different things going on here. He distilled a lot of it, but he didn't try and smooth over the differences. So the same thing here. This story, the way Shlomo is telling it, is going to be very different from the way you're going to read it in the Amtachet plan that I sent you, which is the other file that I today. what I call the Amtachat plan. There's a word that appears 15 times in Miketz only, not before after. It's nowhere else in Tanakh. It means on the pshat level saddlebag, but on a deeper level it means something much, much more. And Yosef had to use a plan to help his brothers. But we're now not there yet. And again, I just want to kind of just tell you, it's a different way of seeing the whole story, but it's okay. That's what basically my thing. Now, so asks, why did they do? Why did they sell Yosef? How could they do this? This is what they thought. And this thing that he's going to say right now, right beneath it in a gray box, is the actual quote from Mei Hashiloach, Parashat Vayeshev, right? He's basically encapsulating what the Ishbitzer, the Mei Hashiloach, says. So Shlomo says it like this. We're not sure if Yosef is a tzaddik or not. In order to determine this, we have to test him. If he goes down to Egypt and is still able to remain a Jew and maintain his holiness, then he is surely one of us. If, on the other hand, he gets lost, he isn't. What's behind this?
They clearly regard themselves as to do such a thing.
They regard themselves as tzaddikim. They regard themselves as righteous. And they are. They're doing their best to be the descendants of Avraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov.
You're saying they really didn't know where
They don't know.
This was their way of finding out.
It seems like he's trying to usurp. He's trying to be a Yishmael vis-a-vis Avraham, and he's vis-a-vis Yitzhak, and he's trying to be a Esav vis-a-vis Yitzhak. Is he an usurper, or is he part of us? He seems to be somebody with his dreams and us bowing down to him and him lording himself over us and him being the beloved favorite of his father. And like the more that he was the favorite of his father, the more they hated him. And it was not hate of a crude nature. It was, the Torah uses very powerful words, but really what it was is, why is he loving Yosef more? We are his main sons. We are the sons of Leah. There's something wrong here. It must be that Yosef is trying to fool our father and get his attention and take it away from us. You're just some of it.
But it's also, they're coming as the tested and he's the untested.
Say that again?
They're coming as the tested and he's the untested.
Why are they tested?
Because they've all been through their stuff. And Yosef is the one who hasn't.
I don't know. What do you mean they've been through their stuff?
GEULAH and all these things. They've all had their
Yeah,
they've all-
they haven't been through anything yet. What have they been through?
Gotta go through.
Just don't go there yet, okay?
Okay.
But also, don't they know that he's special to them, to their father?
Because of
Rachel?
Rachel, he's
They
special.
know that it has nothing to do really with them or Yosef.
It's such a complex inyan that he gave him the coat. He loved him more than the others. Favoritism is a disaster for any family. It's a built into the Klal Yisrael that we're going to have this, that we're volatile and we don't like things that happen, and we are very, very opinionated, and it's until this day. Now, I have a friend, a very dear friend, Chaim Shiner in Toronto, who said that till today, if you'll take away the words reform, reconstruction, deconstruction, conservative, orthodox, ultra-orthodox, and all these words, and say Yosef, Reuven, Dinah, Yehuda, right? Ephraim, Menashe, whatever, and you'll switch the names to family names, it'll be much healthier. The names conservative, orthodox, reform are divisive. They're part of the problem. He says, bring it back to a family. We are a family. It's fantastic. I taped him on this at the time. It was 7 years ago.
What's his name?
Chaim Shiner, very dear friend. And I have those recordings till there's a brilliant theory. I love it.
I just wanted to make a comment that if you really go back, our Neo Beta B was Lovin who tried to switch it because he maybe even foresaw that Yosef should be it and Rachel should be the Akaris Abayim. So he switched it. But in Megillah's roots, when the people of Beit Lechem acknowledged that Rachel, they then Boaz
to
Kirachel
have
v'Kaleah.
Zerah from this woman, like Rachel and Leah. They were Leah's children, and yet they acknowledge Rachel. But
Beautiful.
still is one other thing to be considered here, that 11 of the Shvatim are really Leah's children also. Because when considered this Yosef, his grandmother was Leah through Dinah. He got 11 of the 12 children,
Not Joseph's. No. Well, anyway, that's all. I got you. What's your name?
Sarah Yankovic.
Sarah.
Yeah, I'm friends, and I'm here just for a while.
Great. So let me just repeat.
To come to your class.
Let me just repeat what you said. That it starts with Lavan.
Yeah.
It starts in the Garden of Eden. We can go there also, but just for the time being, it starts with Lavan switching Leah instead of Rachel, because he knew that if Yosef is born first from Rachel, then there's no stopping Am Yisrael. So Hashem allowed that this could happen, and then this is all part of a long series of switches that are part of this class that we talk about, called the roundabout way in which Mashiach has to be come into the world. It has to be not as we would have liked it to be. Things didn't, wow, I'm tongue-tied. But whatever. So what Sarah just said is that Lavan had the insight to try and undermine the whole thing from the very beginning. And only in the book of Ruth, when the children of Leah themselves, who lived in Bethlehem, said Ruth to Boaz, this woman should be to you like Rachel and Leah, they admitted that there was the real mommy was Rachel. Okay, we need much more background for me to fill in on that. It's really important, but I'm not going to do it now. But it's okay if I don't have you say the next thing and you keep it. We speak personally.
That's
Yeah.
your
He only married.
to learn.
He only married Rachel 7 days later. So why would that really affect when Yosef's born first or later?
That's true. See, Hashem already closed Rachel's womb, and that whole thing. All these parts of the story, this drama of going back and seeing all these painful things that Rachel had to suffer, feeling that she was not being given a chance to have the baby that she wanted. Leah suffering because she feels that she's not, she actually says, I feel hated. Now maybe, if I've given birth to Reuven, now to Shimon, now to Levi, now to Yehuda, maybe he'll love me now. Maybe he'll love me now. You know what it feels like for her. The whole thing is, it's a fantastic drama of inner. It's not the story of perfect beings. Right? It's awesome that's. See, very often you find in the East, this is perfect master. This is perfect master. Perfect master. Moshe, no, he wasn't perfect. Yosef, he wasn't perfect. Yehuda, not perfect. We don't have any perfect masters in Judaism. It's amazing. It's really great. It's actually the best thing that you could have asked for. We have total dysfunctionality, but we deal with it. We work with it. We develop it.
But there's got to be a level that's not an emotional level. What's the spiritual level that's not emotional? In terms of the hate, he hates me. It's got to be something more, no?
Oh, listen, right now, when we're in the story and we're dafka going for the emotional level, and I'm emphasizing it, there's other things later when we get the Gra and the Ramchal and the Ari. There's unbelievable stuff here. Teaching Chumash, sharing Chumash in the way that we're doing is on the level of the drama of it. I prefer to do that at first, and then we can pull back and see that there's a messianic level there. But I'm hinting at it, but I'm purposely overemphasizing the drama. What Shlomo goes on and says, they picked Yosef out of the pit, and they said, Yosef, decision. This is all made up, but it's based on a particular way of seeing the story, and it holds water. It's just not the way others see it, but there's definitely something very important here for all of us to look at. Yosef, this is our decision. If you're for real, Shlomo talking in the 60s in San Francisco and Haight-Ashbury. If you're for real, if you're truly one of the holy tribes of Israel, if you're one of us, you'll make it. But if you get lost, so be it. This is a very hard decision to make. It's because of certain things that Yosef had done when he related his dreams to them. They weren't sure if he was one of them or if he wanted to usurp the family heritage. Still, even after they came to this decision, it was the most difficult thing they ever had to do. Imagine if you were one of the 12 tribes. How could you send your brother away? And all through this, they don't know that Yosef has already accepted upon himself the divine decree that had been revealed to Avraham. Quote, know with certainty that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs. For 400 years, the people of that land will enslave them and treat them cruelly. But then I will judge that nation whom they have served, and afterwards they will depart with great wealth. Yes, Yosef took upon himself the burden of being a slave in order to save his entire family and ultimately the entire nation of Israel. That's what he's saying. I mean, every state, it's very, 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 very special.
Can I just make
I don't know. I'm not sure yet. Right now, I'm not sure you can say anything.
Maybe that's why it's called Joseph and Tzaddik.
Tzaddik, unbelievable what he's taken on himself. And I have other texts to back this up. Right now, we just have to take it on faith. That Yehuda said, Yosef, we got to send you away. It's the hardest thing we ever will have to do. But I know that you're going to make it. And if you make it, then the whole thing is going to turn around. He goes on. And so how do you think the brothers said goodbye to Yosef? How do you think the brothers said goodbye to Yosef? Because deep down you can imagine how much the sons of Yaakov loved each other. We have no concept. That's Shlomo at his best. You think this is the story it's told in the superficial way in the Torah. They hated him and this and that. They loved each other so much. The Torah only reveals the worst part of it, but hides the deepest. And so therefore, when you have the Ishbitzer and based on other sources coming to reveal the deep, deep, deep inside story, how much they loved each other. Not like Rabbi Nachman said, that the B'nai Leah disliked and disdained the B'nai Zilpah. It's a different perspective. It's a deeper perspective. Ishbitz goes very deep into how much we all loved each other. So that's also true. So he says, so as the brothers bid farewell to Yosef, Yehuda, the internal king of the Jewish people, says to Yosef, we're selling you as a slave. In order to prove yourself, you have to remain a perfect tzaddik. Yosef immediately answers Yehuda and says, my holy brother, please bless me that I make it. Bless me to be a tzaddik. Right there and then, Yehuda blessed Yosef to be a tzaddik. And so you now know how Yosef was able to remain a tzaddik. It was because of Yehuda's blessing. Totally everything turned around here. But now what does Yehuda say to Yosef? Yehuda, as the head of all the brothers, is selling his brother as a slave. The decision has been made. In order to determine whether Yosef is one of them or not, as much as it hurts, he has to do it. Nevertheless, Yehuda says to Yosef, please bless me too, that I should do tshuva for selling you. How can I do this to you? So Yosef blesses Yehuda to do tshuva. Yehuda blesses Yosef to be a tzaddik, and Yosef blesses Yehuda to do tshuva. These two pillars of the world, Yehuda the Baal tshuva, and Yosef the tzaddik, they bless each other. And Yosef is a tzaddik only because of Yehuda's blessing. And Yehuda is a tzaddik only because of Yosef's blessing. Awesome. And now another view in the Sefer HaYashar. Now I have the Hebrew. Sefer HaYashar is a precious midrash. And it's translated into English and by a friend of mine in the States. The Authentic Annals of the Early Hebrews, the Book of Jasher, the Book of Yashar, the Sefer HaYashar. And they took him and cast him into a pit. And in the pit there was no water, but serpents and scorpions. And Yosef was afraid of the serpents and scorpions that were in the pit. And Yosef cried out with a loud voice. And the Lord hid the serpents and scorpions in the sides of the pit, and they did no harm to Yosef. And Yosef called out from the pit to his brothers and said to them, what have I done to you, and what have I sinned? Okay, so this is the drama. I want you to cry. How am I going to do that with you? Why do you not fear Hashem? Am I not one of your not of your bones and your flesh? Is not Yaakov your father my father? Why are you doing this to me? How will you be able to look at our father Yaakov? Totally different part of the story, right? Different. We have been sold into slavery by a part of ourselves. The son of the king has been sold, has gone into exile. He's gone to Brother, he's gone to this, but he knows, deep down, he knows he's the son of the king. He's a Yosef also. And he continued to cry out and call to his brothers from the pit. And he said, Yehuda, Shimon, Levi, my brothers, lift me up from the place of darkness in which you have placed me, and come this day to have compassion on me, you children of the Lord, and sons of Jacob my father. And if I have sinned unto you, are you not the sons of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov? If they saw an orphan, they had compassion on him. Or if they saw one who was hungry, they gave him bread to eat. Or one that was thirsty, they gave him water to drink. One who was naked, they covered him with garments. How will you then withhold your pity from your brother? I'm your flesh and bones. If I've sinned unto you, surely you will do this if I have sinned unto you, surely you will do this on account of my father. You'll save me. Don't leave me here. Don't sell me. And Yosef spoke these words from the pit, and his brothers would not listen, nor incline their ears to the words of Yosef. And Yosef was crying and weeping in the pit. Oh, that my father knew this day the act which my brothers have done against me, and the words which they have spoken to me. And all his brothers heard his cries and weeping in the pit. And his brothers went and removed themselves from the pit, so that they may not hear the cries of Yosef and his weeping. We have to put ourselves in this position. Some of us have to play the brothers, and some of us have to be Yosef. I'm not a good enough director to direct the play, but inside, there's a Yosef inside each one of us who's crying. I mentioned last week that I did bibliodrama with Asher Pitzela, the creator of bibliodrama, and he asked me which character I wanted to play. It was just between his wife and him, and it was me, and I got to play any part that I wanted to play. I did not choose this one. I chose another one, but I didn't say it last week. I'm hesitating to what it is this week also, but for the sake of Torah, for the sake of Hashem, I would like to share it with you, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I said, okay, it's all this complex story of King David. I wrote about it in a few places, and I have different places where I've written different aspects of the story. We mentioned the book of Ruth. At the end of the book of Ruth, the men disappear, and the women are there with Naomi, and she's nursing, at least if she's not nursing, at least she's taking care of the baby that was born to Ruth. The baby's name is Oved, which means servant. Take care of that. So servant, he's a beautiful little baby, and the men have disappeared. Why did the men disappear? Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov in the book of our heritage, the Sefer Toda'ah, says because Boaz died the next morning after the wedding with Ruth. He had relations with Ruth that night, and he dies the next morning. Of course, he was either 80 years old or 120 years old, which means he had a full life, and the whole reason that he lived was for that night. But on the outside, it didn't look so good. Maybe he made a mistake. He married Ruth the Moabitess, he made a decision to do that, and now he's dead. What does that mean? As the great teachers say, the light of Mashiach, a split second, and then the night darkness set in, and we became enclosed and enshrouded in darkness again. The light shines for a second, and then it goes back and becomes dark. The Messianic light had come into the world, but it has to be shrouded. So therefore, the men who had blessed Boaz and Ruth in the gate of the city were no longer heard from in the book of Ruth, the scroll of Ruth. Only the women, they say, we know this is good. Ruth, you're tops, you're good, and your child is going to be holy. And then so Oved got married when he had a son named Yishai. And then Yishai was a tzaddik, and he had seven righteous sons, and then he decided maybe my grandfather did something wrong. Maybe he married Ruth, and it was not the right thing. I'm going to divorce my Jewish wife, and I'm going to marry my Canaanite maidservant, and on a stipulation of a ketuvah that if I am Jewish, you are hereby now an Israelite, and you are fully Israelite, and if not, then we are both not. And the maidservant went to Yishai's wife and said, this is like not right. I can't do this. He's your husband. And she said, there's nothing I can do about it. He just doesn't want to, he has this doubt that she says, okay, what's going to go on is tonight, I'm going to be there with him in the room. And when he tells me to blow out the candle, I'll get up and you come in the dark and you be with your husband because I don't want to be with him. So Yishai was with his own wife, but he didn't know it, which is like weird because Yaakov at least didn't know Rachel, didn't know Leah. But now we have Yishai has been with his wife enough to have 7 sons, and he doesn't even know he's with the wife. It's a very big hole in the story, but we say that he's a tzaddik and he was really upstairs when he was with his wife. One way or the other, she has a baby. She becomes pregnant, and 3 months later, it's discovered that but she doesn't say anything, and therefore the child, when he's born, is David, and she whispers to him, "You are legitimate," but he's considered by all others, including Yishai, as a mamzer. And so there's all kinds of sources for this. And he grows up as a hated child, as an embarrassment to the family, and he's always out in the fields under the stars. The only peace he has is when he's shepherding the sheep and playing his flute and singing his songs. Now, when Shaul, this is going to be just 5 minutes, when Shaul did the mistake with Amalek, Hashem said to Shmuel, who had anointed Shaul, said, okay, we got another king now. Shaul is no longer going to be king. You're going to go to Bethlehem Yehuda, and you're going to anoint the next king. And Shmuel says, if Shaul hears about this, he's going to kill me. He says, obviously, you're not going to tell him. Everybody's just going to be told you're going to go to Bethlehem Yehuda to make a zevach, to make a celebration of some sort. Don't tell anybody what it is. So Yeshai is the head of Yehuda in that time in Bethlehem. He has a hacienda. He has a whole big place. And so when he hears that Shmuel is coming, who's the greatest prophet of the generation, the only prophet of the generation, he comes out to meet him with his whole family and the whole community. And he welcomes him. Wow, everybody, get ready. This is an incredible celebration. Shmuel Navi is here. Shmuel Navi then whispers to Yishai, give me a little room that I can be alone, and send in your oldest son. You know this story, Suri. So I'm sorry to go a little bit over time, just very short. Okay, the first son walks in. His name is Eliav. Shmuel is about to stand up. He feels he's in the presence of the next king of Israel. Hashem says to him in prophecy, sit down. This is not him. You just see with human eyes. I see the heart. So Shmuel then says to Yishai, send in your second son, your third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh son. None of them are the one. Don't you have another son? And Yishai says, yes, but don't embarrass us. What do you mean don't embarrass you? You have another son? Yes.
David was the 8th.
According to some, he was the seventh, but it's two verses in the Tanakh. One he says he's the seventh, one he says it's the eighth. I don't know what this means, but whatever the case, David, he says, send for him right away. Yishai sends a messenger. You are now David. You're in the fields. You're sitting there. Your only time you have any peace is when you're there in the fields with the sheep. The messenger comes. David, Yishai wants you. Leave me alone. Get away from me. You want to blame me for something else? Don't have anybody else to blame? Get away from me. Whatever, that, I want you to get that you can say whatever you feel you need to say, because you've been an outcast your whole life, and you know nobody has ever told you why you're an outcast. Your mother whispered to you when you were an infant, only once, you are this, you are kosher, and never again. So unfair to have to grow up with such a stigma. Terribly, terribly angry. Only time he has peace. But then the messenger says, Shmuel Hanavi wants you. What does that mean to David? What does that mean to you? Shmuel is a prophet. If there's one person in the world who can tell you who you are and why you've gone through what you've gone through, it's Shmuel Hanavi. That moment is what I lived. And I will always live that moment. I'm not King David, I am nobody, but I'm me, you're you. And each one of us has a right to cry, I don't know who I am. I want so much to know who I am. That is our birthright. That's why we're learning this stuff, because through their struggle to know who they were, we will do what's called hitkashrut. We'll connect to them, and they will strengthen and empower us, because that's why they did what they did. That's why they had to go through what they had to go through. So I gift that to you. I don't know any better way to do it. He went back. The minute he came into sight, Shmuel Hanavi was told by Hashem, stand up, you're in the presence of the next king of Israel. And he poured the anointing oil over David's head, and the Midrash says that the oil turned into precious rubies and diamonds and emeralds. And the family stood there gaping. And they didn't know what to do. They were embarrassed. They didn't get it. We won't go the rest of the story right now, but it's very strange. The Tanakh is purposely strange. It's purposely all entangled for us to untangle. Okay. We are entangled. Thanks.
You gave that story over, not this past Arab Shavuos, but the one before. And it was so amazing.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was really amazing.
That's the Shavuot story,
That was
right?
it. But it was at that time of year, a lot came down with it.
Yeah.
This is for
Really,
the
thank you,
Kol
guys.
Hatorah
Oh,
I got from
thank
2
you.
weeks ago. Thank you so much. We get the new bill. It's got a woman on it. We might have to put like a mechitza on the bill so we should look at the female face. Like my joke.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I listened to the tape of our